Hey, it's Mike here, and today a response to Veganism is Worse for the Planet by edgy right-wing YouTuber Steven Crowder, by popular request from you guys, of course. In response to left-wing politicians and celebrities calling for a lowering of meat consumption, he makes some outrageous claims about veganism and the environment, as well as vegan ethics in general, like how vegans kill more animals. He primarily cites anti-vegan opinion pieces, doesn't look directly at any studies, so we're gonna put his claims up against the research and logic where it is applicable. So let's just have some fun with this. Let's go. Steven Crowder is a big channel. A lot of his videos get around 1 million views. This one will probably hit 1 million views in the next few days. And I do have some issues with Crowder that I'm gonna put at the end and leave separate from refuting the vegan points. Judging by the like to dislike ratio and his demographic, he's really just preaching to the choir. I don't think this is gonna persuade anybody to not be vegan, but these are gonna be myths that are gonna be used as ammo against vegans for weeks, months, years to come, who knows? So it's worth refuting them. His video starts with a montage of people coming for your meat, coming for your freedom.
Democrats have been presenting a laundry list of things they want to stop Americans from doing to save the environment. And among these is eating meat.
You know, the UN just released a study that said we're going to be okay if the vast majority of the world goes vegetarian immediately.
Yang is correct. That UN report did show that a vegan diet was the best at reducing emissions, but spoiler alert, Crowder just completely ignores it.
Yes, are we prepared to deal with the health and environmental consequences of maintaining current levels of red meat and dairy product consumption?
And one clip that he included that I thought just showed some of the misleading nature of the channel and the editing was that of Elizabeth Warren.
Some of it is with light bulbs, some of it is on straws, some of it, is on cheeseburgers, right?
She was actually trying to take the blame away from personal hamburger consumption, something you'll soon see why I disagree with.
But understand, this is exactly what the fossil fuel industry hopes we're all talking about. They want to be able to stir up a lot of controversy around your light bulbs, around your straws, and around your cheeseburgers.
But it just goes to show, you know, your political enemies are enemies regardless. They then dismiss Natalie Portman as like a librarian. What's wrong with librarians? They're great. Natalie, get him with those books.
Polluting, it's the #1
librarian
contributor to
what she makes me think
pollution.
of.
And it's kind of funny, they just have these dudes in the background that are just the yes men that agree with every single thing that Crowder says. They're just like, it's like, yeah. Oh, no. I actually got word that there was another yes bro that was edited out, but thankfully there was an inside source that sent me footage of him. His name is Trent. Huh, Stephen good, vegan bad. They then attack Paul McCartney's appearance. This dude is almost 80.
1 day a week. 1 day without eating animal products.
And you can look like me.
Can have a huge impact.
Stephen more beautiful than Paul. Girls never liked Paul. I'd love to see what these bros look like when they are almost 80. I think he looks great for his age. Anyway, personal attacks aside, here's where Stephen actually starts making some claims.
Veganism, this is something you don't hear a lot, is potentially much worse for the planet.
No.
Let me cycle through this.
Oh, I'm so ready for these mental gymnastics. Hit me, Stephen.
Okay,
Reason 1, sustainability. Topsoil erosion.
Yeah.
Omnivorous farming is actually a lot more sustainable than the vegan model. So globally, we have, I want to make sure I get this right, 25 to 40 billion tons of topsoil are lost every year to erosion, mainly due to plowing, intense cropping.
Yeah.
I can't tell if this guy legitimately doesn't know very much about the food system or he's trying to be misleading. It's very obvious that a large portion of crops go to feed animals. Even non-vegans in the comments are mentioning this. He probably doesn't know that, for example, in the US, we use about half of our lower 48 land to graze and feed livestock. About 155 million acres are used for feed crops for livestock. Now, he didn't link it in the description, but he was referring to this FAO article, so he must consider the UN a good source. Now, while this next figure varies, according to the UN, fun fact, quote, more than half of the world's crops are used to feed animals, not people. And back to his FAO paper, one point that he didn't mention was that soil acidity is a major topsoil issue, especially in South America, due to largely deforestation. Well, Steven, you might want to know that the leading cause of Amazon destruction, about 80%, depending on the report, is from livestock. We clear forests to graze and feed livestock, and that's the main reason that people are lighting the Amazon on fire. Perhaps the most laughable point of all here is that according to this FAO report, the same report that found that livestock emissions were greater than all transport emissions combined, also says that 55% of the erosion in the US is caused by livestock. Over half. All right, I debunked his video. Can I stop now? All right, fine. We'll keep going. He actually has more to say about topsoil in the UK.
In the UK, the topsoil depletion is so bad that the farmers think they may actually never be able to harvest that land at all. Again.
Wow.
Here's journalist George Monbiot talking about his area of the UK and how it has been sheep-wrecked, he says.
76% of the area of Wales, just over 3/4, is under livestock production, and the great majority of that is for meat. Is that the hills have been scoured. There's no deep vegetation left on the hills. Look at the damage done by the clearing the hills, by having these very bare hills maintained by sheep, to the watersheds and to the cycle of rain falling and percolating down to the lowlands.
So in short, it's mainly grazing of sheep that makes the land vulnerable to weather-based erosion. And, you know, a quote is fun, but let's actually look at some research from this paper. The major factor in the erosion of the uplands appears to be overgrazing largely by sheep. So yes, it makes land vulnerable to weather, and removing sheep reduces erosion, they also say. Okay, but maybe this is just one area and it's a small fraction of total erosion. Very doubtful from this other paper. Quote, 85% of the UK's total land footprint is associated with animal products. Yup, it's livestock in the UK too. And yeah, I can agree that mismanaging crops, which don't equate to veganism, can lead to erosion, but it's very obvious that the first issue that he tried to attack veganism on was actually the opposite. Meat, which he's trying to promote, is the main cause.
And how do you combat this? This is something a lot of people, you won't hear it from Paul McCartney. It's just letting the land, just letting it return to being grazed pasture for a period, and that results in complete halting of the erosion, and it rebuilds the soil. Basically, what you need to do is leave it for the animals, and then we eat those animals.
I think
Steven's a genius, brah. Dude, Steven, I love you. Steven, is my mic even on? Steven! Yeah, nice PhD thesis, but that's not gonna cut it. I'm just gonna play into the vegan smugness all the way. Obviously, if grazing livestock is one of the main causes of erosion, this is not going to work, but what is he quoting here? He's quoting a Guardian opinion piece saying that grazing is the only way to reverse land damage officially according to the FAO. That's a ridiculous absolute statement, which is just citing one preliminary paper by the FAO. This is not the official position of the FAO like they want it to be. The reality is that the FAO promotes a variety of techniques to maintain and even build soil. From this paper, they cover crop rotations, doing nitrogen fixing plants, reducing erosion with land cover year round, doing landscape elements, letting the land rest, using green manure, and reducing synthetic fertilizers. There's a reason that carbon credits are most commonly from planting plants, because they sequester carbon and they build soil. So I hope you can see that he's wrong here again. Now let's move on from soil to his next point.
Yeah, and there have been quite a few studies that show vegan diets are less sustainable, by the way, than omnivorous diets in the long term. Here's a collage for you.
Oh, really? Looks like I need to throw away my sustainability degree now. First of all, the study did not look at total sustainability of diets. It just looked at how many people the US could support using different diets and all of the US land. I have a whole video on this study if you're interested, but one point that you're definitely not going to hear him say from this study directly is that a vegan diet uses 1/8 as much land as our current diet, which is ridiculous. But where this study was a joke is that they classified all land that is currently being grazed as 100% not arable, throwing away 2/3 of that US agricultural land, removing it from the vegan scenario entirely. You know, just because in the current economical model we aren't growing conventional corn or soy on it doesn't mean we can't grow other plants on much of this land. It might be super fertile land that they just can't easily fit a tractor on, but if we could grow crops on just 1/3 of that grazing land, then the vegan diet scenario would massively surpass the meat scenarios. If we could use 2/3, it would be a total joke the vegan diet would destroy. And going further, we can do things like vertical farming and hydroponics to grow plants where we could never grow animals, not mentioned again. But probably the most ironic point here is that the diet he's bragging about winning that has meat is actually a reduction of 60 to 80% of meat consumption. So it's actually further in the meat-free direction than the calls for meat-free Monday that he was dragging in the beginning of the video. You can't have your meat and eat it too, Steven. Also ridiculous, it's worth noting that the study found that a vegan diet, even while throwing away 2/3 of the land, fed 175% of the people of a standard diet, the standard meat diet that Homeboy here wants to keep perpetuating.
So another reason that veganism might be worse for the environment, people don't think about this, it's often overlooked, the importation of foods. Yeah. Vegans are not advocating an apples only if you live in the Northeast diet, while Floridians and Californians enjoy the cornucopia of a year-round growing season.
So he keeps doing this thing where he focuses on one little detail and doesn't look at the bigger picture. The reality is all of the studies that look at a vegan diet carbon footprint show that it's the least. You know, studies like this one, and again, we have that UN paper showing that a vegan diet saved the most carbon emissions for the planet. It was the best out of 8 diets. And like, we don't import animal foods, and animal foods, I would say, have a higher higher rate of need for refrigeration, which uses more energy than plants do. And for example, we import $300 million worth of beef from Brazil. That's our contribution to Amazon destruction.
What do you think is better for the environment? Eating venison from a deer you bagged yourself, or eating meat from your local yak farm, for all I know? Or fixing yourself $20 toast with avocados that were grown in Mexican tap water and tossed into trucks to travel 2,500 miles?
And I love how he tries to pin locally hunted deer against Mexican imported avocados. Well, newsflash, hunting is by definition not sustainable because it couldn't produce enough meat to feed people. And as for avocados, not that most are eaten by vegans anyway, but we can grow them in the US and we grow quite a few in California. So this is not how veganism is destroying the planet. And ironically, and this is speculation, it's very possible that that locally hunted deer, due to the extra need for refrigeration, that extra freezer people throw in their garages, could actually be having a higher carbon footprint, higher energy usage than bulk freight shipped avocados from one country away, which by the way have natural self-packaging and don't require refrigeration.
The animals actually killed to protect and to create these crop yields.
Yeah, it's a thing.
A lot of vegans may not realize this. Do you know how it's 20, especially certain grains like wheat, I don't know if it's corn, I think we have a source, results in 25 times more sentient animals being killed per kilogram of usable protein.
This article again. I feel like there's an anti-vegan video starter pack, and this article is in it. This article unfairly compares what is possibly the worst plant production scenario to an exaggerated, best possible animal production scenario, and that's poisoning mice in a mouse infestation for Australian wheat versus fully grass-fed Australian beef, even though a third of them aren't grass-fed. So we're looking at hundreds of mice being killed per acre in this infestation wheat scenario, which is probably the result of killing all of the predators to protect livestock. Another thing that isn't counted. Foxes are one of the main mouse predators in Australia. You kill them, all of a sudden you get a massive boom in mice population, which you then need to kill because you killed other animals. And this article mentions killing of the predators, which is poisoned baiting that happens on an industrial scale over vast areas of Australia. Normally I don't show anything graphic on this channel, but I'm going to flash it for 1 split second in 5 seconds from this Australian government paper on Close Your Eyes, livestock predation. Those livestock deaths by predation are also not counted. Graphic stuff gone. They also don't count deaths from when they clear areas for livestock. And remember, the leading cause of Amazon destruction is livestock. It's also worth mentioning that the leading cause of species extinction is likely, as this study says, human carnivory or our desire to eat meat. Also, since we're talking about the environment, this magical grass-fed beef in Australia actually emits 3.5 times more methane than grain-fed beef, grain-fed cows, neither of which are the solution. Another annoying thing here is that they're comparing deaths per protein. We do not use wheat as a main source of protein in a vegan diet, so let's play the game they're playing. Let's look at something else like nuts. Here is footage of nuts being harvested. Oh my god, so many deaths. I'm gonna go ahead and say we're getting about 0 deaths here. So playing their game, oh, it looks like grass-fed beef kills infinitely more animals than nuts do per gram of protein. How does it feel? But here's a chart of deaths per calorie, which matters most. Now with harvest alone, animal deaths are higher, and then when you actually add the intentional slaughter deaths, it gets even worse. So the article intentionally seeked out the worst possible plant scenario, which was really a result of infestation due to killing predators to protect livestock, something that, again, they did not count, and they didn't count a lot of deaths in the animal model, and that was required. 99.99% of situations, you are going to be killing more animals when you're eating animals. But vegans are causing so many deaths. What should we do about this?
I really thought when you said we could solve this problem, you were just going to kill the vegans.
Yeah, vegans are so evil. I bet they would be like cannibals if they could. But jokes aside, one of the Yes Bros actually said this.
Well, there are some people who are experimenting with cannibalism.
Is that too far?
Yeah.
That's an option. Well, I think there's a natural progression there, right? If you're not willing to eat animals, you're willing to eat things that you consider less than animals, which apparently humans are less important.
Okay.
Yeah, vegans are the villains here. They're the ones that hate humans and kill all the animals. But wouldn't it be so much easier if that was actually the case, to keep eating the way you do? Then, of course, he has to make some health jabs, briefly insinuating that saturated fat isn't actually bad for you.
A lot of misinformation regarding dietary cholesterol and the saturated fat was because of the vegetarian lobby and their agenda above truth.
You know, your bro science article sharing circle probably hasn't shared this meta-analysis of 395 controlled feeding trials. This is the best science we have on the topic, showing that the more saturated fat that people were eating, the higher their cholesterol level went, and high cholesterol is causally linked to heart disease.
They are now playing the same misleading angle on the American public by trying to convince them to take this diet up. Not because it's better for you, but because it's better for the planet. Well, guess what? We found out that it wasn't necessarily better for you.
Who found out? The dairy and egg industries? No. Vegans have lower disease rates across the board, lower cancer, diabetes, etc. Average normal BMI. I just don't know what he's talking about. He's literally just making this up. Now that I've touched on his main vegan points, I want to mention something about Stephen himself, and that is that his views on gay people are abhorrent. He has repeatedly bullied a gay Vox reporter, and he was actually demonetized by YouTube because of this behavior, although he's been remonetized, it appears. Well, you can do your own research for this. Even in this video, to show his negative view of gay people, he still uses gay as a negative adjective, as if we're in 3rd grade.
And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, you're talking about grains. We could solve that problem if we go vegan and gluten grain-free. Yeah, but that's just too gay. No. That's a bridge that I'm not.
But to summarize, this is actually pretty laughable because Stephen's points are objectively the opposite of reality when you look at the research. Oh, vegan diets are going to be super bad for erosion. Well, the reality is they use 1/8 of the land, and 55% of erosion in the US is caused by livestock. UK soil's destroyed because vegan? No, it's probably from grazing sheep and other animals, probably even 80% of it. A vegan diet would fail to feed more people? No, the reality is a vegan diet feeds 175% of the people that the diet he wants to eat feeds, even in a totally handicapped situation. Vegan diets have high footprints because avocados? No, vegan diets have the lowest carbon footprint of all. Vegan diet kills more animals? No, you use an absolutely insane comparison of a wheat mouse infestation, when the reality is that 99.99% of scenarios show that a vegan diet kills less animals. Perhaps most important of all, vegans aren't purposefully killing animals. All right, that's it for today. Feel free to let me know down below what you thought about this video. Feel free to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Hey, Steven, you know we're meant to be together. We should go somewhere just me and you because it's too crowded in here.
That's just too gay.